She hears the words before she realizes she has stopped moving. Just a moment longer. They are spoken without command, without insistence, almost absent-mindedly, yet they still reach her before the handle does. Her fingers hover a breath from the door, the weight of her cloak already settled on one shoulder, the hem of her gown gathered just enough for departure. The Duke does not look up when he says it. That is what makes it dangerous. The study is steeped in the low amber light of late evening, candles burning steady in their sconces, the fire reduced to a quiet glow. Through the tall arched windows, the last of the daylight thins into something softer, less certain. She exhales slowly. "My lord," she says, keeping her voice even. "It's late." "Yes," he replies. Still, he does not turn. She waits. He stands at the long oak desk, sleeves rolled, head bent over a spread of papers he has already reviewed twice. The posture is familiar, contained, intent, the stance of a man who loses hours without noticing. She has seen it countless times before. She should have left already. That was the plan. Deliver the final account, receive acknowledgement, withdraw before dusk slipped into night. She had even checked the sky as she entered, measuring the sun's position with the practiced awareness of someone who knows her place in the keep's rhythms. And yet here she is, still standing. "Just a moment," he says again, quieter this time. She lowers her hand from the door. The sound is subtle, the faint rustle of fabric as her arm drops to her side, but it feels louder than it should. The study seems to hold its breath around it. "I can return in the morning," she offers. "Yes," he agrees immediately. "But you haven't dismissed me." "No." The honesty lands with a weight that settles between them. She turns slowly, facing him again. He still hasn't looked up, but she can feel his awareness now, sharpened by her stillness. "You were finished with the accounts," she says. "Yes." "And the messengers are gone." "Yes." "And the gates will close soon." "Yes." She watches his jaw tighten, just slightly, as though the words have caught up to him all at once. "You should go," he says, and this time he does look up. The moment their eyes meet, the room feels smaller. "I will," she says. But she does not move. The pause stretches, neither hurried nor awkward, simply present. "You're still here," he observes. "Yes." "And you're not asking why." "No." He studies her for a moment longer, then steps away from the desk, the movement unhurried. He does not approach her directly. Instead, he crosses toward the window, resting one hand against the stone frame as he looks out at the deepening sky. "Dusk past," he says. "Yes." "And night is nearly settled." "Yes." The bells toll in the distance, low and resonant, marking the hour. The sound threads through the stone corridors of the keep, unmistakable in its finality. She hears the gates close moments later. The echo carries. They both still. "You're locked in," he says quietly. "Yes." The implication settles, not with alarm, but with clarity. "I can arrange quarters," he continues. "Guest rooms." "I know. And an escort." "Yes." She watches him closely now, the way his attention has shifted fully to her, the papers forgotten, the hour finally accounted for. "You didn't notice the time," she says. "No. And that's unusual for you." "Yes." The admission is rare enough to unsettle her. "I was occupied," he adds. "With the accounts?" "With you standing there," he replies. The words are not spoken sharply. There is no accusation in them, no triumph. Just fact. Her breath stills for a fraction of a second before she regains control of it. "That's not appropriate," she says. "No," he agrees. "It isn't. And you're saying that like you're aware of it." "I am." The fire shifts, sending a soft flare of warmth across the room. The light catches the edge of her cloak, the curve of her shoulder, the steady line of her posture. "You were meant to leave at dusk," he says again, as though testing the words. "Yes." "And I asked for just a moment longer." "Yes." "And you stayed." "Yes." The truth settles between them, neither of them attempting to soften it. "You could have gone anyway," he says. "I could have. But you didn't." "No." She holds his gaze, refusing to look away. "This is how complications begin," she says. "Yes." "And you're not stepping back." "No." The honesty is unsettling in its calm. "Sit," he says suddenly. "I would prefer not to." "Because if you sit," he replies, "you'll stay." She hesitates, then lets out a quiet breath. That's an assumption. It's an observation. She does not sit. Instead, She moves a few steps farther into the room, stopping near the hearth, the warmth immediately noticeable against her skirts. "You're tired," he says. "I'm fine. You say that often." "It's usually true." "Usually," he echoes. The word lingers. "You should rest," he says. "Yes. And you will." "Yes. But not yet." "No." The fire crackles softly, the only sound in the room now. "You didn't plan this," she says. "No. And neither did I." "No. But here we are." "Yes." She shifts her weight, suddenly aware of how close he is now, not in distance, but in attention. His focus is complete, undistracted in a way that feels rare. "You're looking at me differently," she says quietly. "Yes. And you noticed before I did." "Yes." That, more than anything, unsettles her. "This isn't something to indulge," she says. "No. And it isn't something to ignore." "No." The balance holds, fragile but intact. "I don't want this to become something hidden," she says. "It won't. And I don't want it to exist only because it's late and we're tired. It won't." The certainty in his voice steadies something in her chest. "Then what do you want?" she asks. He considers her carefully, the firelight softening his features without diminishing the seriousness in his eyes. "I want to be aware of this," he says. "Not pretend it didn't happen. Not rush it. Not deny it." "And if I choose to leave in the morning?" she asks. "You will. And you won't follow." "No. And you won't turn this into obligation." "No. The restraint matters." "Just a moment longer," he says again, softer now, not a request this time, but an acknowledgement of what has already passed. Night has fully settled outside the windows, the sky dark and still. The candles burn steady. The keep hums quietly beyond the stone walls. She exhales slowly. "All right," she says. The word is deliberate. "But only this moment." "Yes," he replies. They stand there, side by side but not touching, the space between them charged with awareness rather than urgency. She had meant to leave at dusk. Night fell while she still stood beside him. And for the first time, she understands that this moment, this pause, is not an accident. It is the beginning. The moment does not break. That surprises her most. She had expected something to shift once she agreed to stay. Some change in the air, some subtle forward motion that would turn stillness into momentum. Instead, the study remains exactly as it is. Warm, quiet, held. The candles burn without flicker. The fire settles into a low, steady glow. They remain standing, side by side, but not touching. It is a choice now. "Only this moment," she had said. "Yes," he had answered. And he honors it. The Duke does not move closer. He does not speak again immediately. He lets the weight of the moment settle fully before allowing anything else to exist beside it. "You should be tired," he says at last. "I am," she replies. "But you're still steady." "Yes." That's rare. She considers the observation. So is being noticed. The words leave her before she fully measures them, and she feels the truth of them land between them with quiet force. "Yes," he says. "It is." Outside, the keep breathes, doors closing, footsteps fading, the distant murmur of guards changing watch. Night has taken full possession of the hour, undeniable now. "You won't be able to leave until morning," he says, stating the obvious without pressure. "I know. And you're not uneasy." "No. That concerns me," he admits. She turns her head slightly, meeting his gaze fully now. "Why?" "Because you should be," he replies. "Not of me, but of how easily this could become something careless." She nods slowly. "That's why I stayed." The admission feels heavier than she expects. "You stayed to prevent carelessness," he says. "Yes. And not to invite it." "No." The distinction sharpens the moment rather than diffusing it. "You're very deliberate," he says. "I have to be. And you're still here." "Yes." The repetition no longer feels like circling. It feels like grounding. Each exchange anchoring them to the truth of what is happening rather than letting it drift into implication. "You could rest now," he says. "I'll have the rooms prepared." "I will," she replies. "But not yet." He glances at her, then nods once. "Then speak." She inhales slowly, letting the warmth of the room settle into her. "I don't want this to be a misunderstanding," she says, "or something we pretend didn't exist once daylight returns. It won't be. And I don't want it to become something we justify, because we were alone and tired. It won't. And I don't want to wake tomorrow wondering whether I stayed because I was asked or because I wasn't dismissed. The words land carefully, measured but honest. That's fair, he says. So let me be clear. She waits. I noticed you, he continues. Before dusk. Not because you lingered, but because you didn't need to. Her breath stills for a fraction of a second. You were ready to leave, he adds. Prepared. Composed. And still, you waited. Yes. And I let you. Yes. That was not accident, he says. And it was not indulgence. She studies him closely, searching for any sign of assumption, of expectation. There is none. And if you had left anyway, she asks. I would have let you go. And if I leave in the morning, I will let you go. The consistency steadies her. You're not trying to keep me, she says. No. And you're not pretending you didn't want me to stay. No. The honesty settles into the space between them like something solid. You should sit, he says again, not as instruction this time, but concern. She hesitates, then crosses the room and lowers herself into the chair near the hearth. The warmth immediately loosens the ache in her legs, the tension she has carried since morning. He does not sit opposite her. Instead, he leans lightly against the edge of the desk, close enough that she can feel his presence without it pressing against her. You've carried too much today, he says quietly. That's not unusual. No, he agrees. But it shouldn't be invisible. She looks up at him, surprised by the words. I don't ask to be seen, she says. I know. And I don't need it. I know. Then why? Because not needing something doesn't mean it isn't necessary, he replies. The fire crackles softly, punctuating the silence that follows. You're very careful with your power, she says. And you're careful with your endurance, he replies. Almost to a fault. She exhales slowly. You're still crossing a line, she says. Yes. And you're aware of where it is. Yes. And you're choosing to stand just short of it. Yes. The pattern holds. You could take advantage of this, she says. The hour. The circumstance. Yes. But you're not. No. The restraint steadies her more than any reassurance could have. You should eat, he says suddenly. You missed the evening meal. I wasn't hungry. You are now. She almost smiles. I'll have something brought, he continues. Not as obligation. As care. She considers the offer, then nods. All right. He steps away, giving brief instructions to a servant at the door before returning. The interruption breaks nothing. If anything, it grounds the moment further in reality. When the tray arrives, he sets it on the small table near her chair and steps back again, leaving the choice entirely hers. You don't hover, she observes. I trust you. The word lands quietly, but it lands. She eats slowly, savoring the warmth of the food, the simple grounding of it. He remains nearby, not watching her eat, not withdrawing entirely, simply present. This won't remain private, she says after a moment. No. People will notice. Yes. And they'll draw conclusions. Yes. And you won't correct them unless they're wrong. No. She nods. That's acceptable. The candles burn lower, time slipping forward without urgency now. You should sleep, he says. Yes. And the rooms are ready. Yes. She stands slowly, steadier now, the fatigue softened rather than sharpened by the pause. He steps back immediately, restoring space without being asked. I'll have someone escort you, he says. Yes. She moves toward the door, then pauses, turning back. You said, just a moment longer, she says quietly. Yes. And I stayed. Yes. And you didn't turn that into something I couldn't step away from. No. The acknowledgement lingers. Good, she says. She opens the door and steps into the corridor, the cooler air brushing her face. The escort waits, respectful and silent. As she walks toward the west wing, one truth settles clearly in her mind. Staying was not the risk. Pretending it didn't matter would have been. Morning does not rush them. It arrives the way it always does in the keep. Quiet at first, light filtering through narrow windows, stone holding the nights cool long after the sky has brightened. She wakes before the bells, not startled, not restless, simply awake. For a moment, she lies still, listening. The west wing is calm at this hour. Somewhere below, a door opens and closes. Footsteps pass at a measured pace. The keep is returning to itself, unaware or unconcerned, with the fact that she did not leave when she was meant to. She sits up slowly and draws a steady breath. Nothing feels misplaced. She dresses with intention, choosing garments that belong to daylight rather than night. The gown is simple, dignified. The corset beneath is laced firmly but not tightly, tightened to support rather than restrain. She pauses as she fastens it, testing her breath, stopping where it feels right. That choice feels important. When she steps into the corridor, the guard stationed there inclines his head without curiosity. She moves through the keep without being hurried or delayed, as though this had always been part of the morning's design. She does not go to the council chamber immediately. Instead, she walks the outer gallery overlooking the courtyard, where sunlight spills across stone and the air is crisp with the promise of a clear day. The garden below is still damp with dew, leaves catching the light as though polished overnight. She leans her hands lightly against the balustrade and allows herself a moment of stillness. Last night did not feel like a mistake, nor does this morning feel like consequence. It feels like continuation. By the time she reaches the council chamber, the room is already filling. Advisors take their places. Clerks arrange papers. The familiar rhythm settles around her like a well-worn garment. She takes her seat without ceremony. When the Duke enters, the room acknowledges him as it always has. He moves with the same contained authority, greeting those present with measured nods, taking his place at the head of the table. He does not look at her immediately. That restraint matters. The meeting proceeds with efficiency. Matters of trade, land disputes, the lingering question of the Southern envoy, all addressed with clarity and focus. She speaks when necessary, her voice steady, her reasoning precise. He listens. When debate sharpens, he does not interrupt her. When decisions require judgment, he invites her view without fanfare. The dynamic is not new, but it is noticed. By the time the last matter is concluded, the room has adjusted. When the council disperses, she remains seated. So does he. The doors close softly behind the last of the advisors, leaving the chamber filled with daylight and quiet. You slept, he says. Yes. And you're rested. Yes. He inclines his head once. Good. She rises and moves closer, not into his space, but near enough that the conversation feels direct rather than formal. You didn't dismiss me last night, she says. No. And you didn't ask me to stay. No. And you didn't pretend it didn't matter. No. He meets her gaze fully now, the daylight stripping the moment of any illusion. I don't intend to, he says. Neither do I. The agreement settles between them without need for elaboration. There will be questions, she says. Not spoken openly, but noticed. Yes. And assumptions. Yes. And you won't correct them unless they're wrong. No. She nods. Good. He studies her for a moment, then speaks carefully. You stayed because you chose to, he says. Yes. And you're here now for the same reason. Yes. And if you had chosen otherwise, you would have accepted it, she finishes. Yes. The consistency steadies something in her chest that she hadn't realized was still tense. Later that morning, they walk through the inner courtyard together, not alone, not conspicuous. Their pace is unhurried, their proximity deliberate but not possessive. When others approach, they do not step apart. When conversation arises, it flows naturally, without defensiveness or display. The keep does not whisper. It observes. By midday, the rhythm has settled. She returns briefly to the west wing to collect her things. The guest chamber looks different now, less like a place of pause and more like a reminder. She does not linger. Instead, she walks the familiar corridors toward the Duke's study. The door is open. Sunlight fills the room, illuminating the desk where she had stood the evening before, cloak half on, fingers hovering near the door. She steps inside. He looks up immediately this time. You didn't leave, he observes. No. And you returned. Yes. The distinction matters. She stops a few steps inside the room, standing where she had stood the night before. This is where I should have gone, she says quietly. Yes. And you didn't stop me. No. And I didn't go. No. They share a look that acknowledges responsibility on both sides. I don't want this to become something explained away, she says, or something diminished by circumstance. It won't. And I don't want to be someone you accommodate. You won't be, and I won't accommodate you. A pause. Good, he says, with quiet approval. The balance holds. That evening, the bells ring clearly as the sun lowers once more. She stands in the courtyard, watching the light fade, not waiting to leave, not waiting to stay. Simply present. He joins her without announcement, standing beside her at a respectful distance. You were supposed to leave at dusk, he says softly. Yes. And I said just a moment longer. Yes. And night fell while you still stood beside me. Yes. She turns to face him. That matters, she says. Yes, he agrees. But not because of what it caused, she continues. Because of what it revealed. He meets her gaze. Which is, that attention given without demand is rare, she says. And restraint without expectation is rarer still. Yes. She holds his gaze a moment longer, then nods once. We proceed, she says, without haste. Yes. And without illusion. Yes. And with the understanding that choice remains. Yes. The bells finish their call, the hour marked and acknowledged by both of them this time. She turns away first, not because she must, but because she chooses to. And he lets her go. That is what confirms it. Because she was supposed to leave at dusk. He asked for just a moment longer. Night fell while she still stood beside him. And instead of turning that moment into secrecy, confusion, or regret, they turned it into intention. Which is the only ending worth keeping.